All right, here we go. So I saw this tweet. I don't know what this means. Laughing, imagining two aides sprinting into the Oval Office and handing this to Biden. I don't even know what that's. I don't really get the joke, but I'm getting older, so jokes are they don't make sense to me. Anyway, we have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people here, and 3 of them have been canceled. One is racist, the fat girl. Who would have expected the fat person to be racist? Am I right? Just kidding. Anyway. Then we got this girl's for being a Trump supporter. Who would have expected a blonde to support Trump? And then the trans girl hates non-binary people. But who doesn't? Just kidding. Anyway, I'm surprised these two haven't been canceled for being white, but she might have some kind of... But, she might be Hispanic, but, she's still white presenting, and we got... White people are bad. And frankly, we should cancel Zendaya for being Zendaya. That being said, let's look at what's going on. Let's look at... Why are we canceling the cast of Euphoria? By the way, the show is actually good. I watched the show. It's actually very good. All jokes aside. My wife said, who's Maddie? Who's Maddie? Wait, who's Maddie? Maddie's getting canceled as well? Which one is Maddie? This one is Maddie. She's getting canceled too? What did she do? I don't understand. Her name is Alexa Demine. Oh my goodness, we're canceling them all. Being too hot. It's weird. They're all in their 20s, by the way. I think that's 25, 24, 23. I don't know the rest. They're all in their mid 20s. Chill out, y'all. Why is this other girl leaving? Oh, because she has a bad hairstyle. I would leave too if they made me look like that. Apparently it was a fake post. I don't know. So it's all just okay. We're not even going to worry about that. Stop distracting me. Let's start with a dirty Trump supporter. Here's the disgusting Trump supporter herself, Sydney Sweeney. 14 million followers, more like 14 million racist wall builders. As if white people would have built the wall. We would have hired a bunch of Hispanic guys to do it anyway. Isn't that weird? I helped myself this video. Anyway, let's see. So here's what happens. Sydney Sweeney has a family. You guys have to really follow here because it's actually really messed up. I've been looking into these allegations. She has a family. And they're Southerners. They ride mechanical bulls. Look at that. Disgusting. That used to be a real bull. Animal activists really got to shut this down. Anyway, she was at a family party. No better way to celebrate my mama than a surprise hoedown. Hoedown? She's promoting prostitution. Wait, we're supposed to like that as progressive. Sorry. Sex work is good. Nothing wrong with it at all. There's no backlash to that. All right. Okay, I understand why people do it, but anyway, maybe she had sex with her family member. I don't know. What's the scandal? Oh, she's dancing. White people can't dance. So far, we're getting closer to the scandal. Am I right, guys? Keep going. This looks like the same cousin. Oh my god, it's just like they copy pasted fucking family members. I guess that's what happens when you inbreed. Anyway, here's where it all goes downhill. Look at the dad. You see what he's wearing? You see that? That is Nazi memorabilia. He is a Nazi. He hates Jewish people. That's it. That's the scandal. That's it. Because her uncle has a thin blue line shirt. I have uncles that do that shit too. Who cares? Who cares? Even if you don't like, first of all, there are a lot of people who just love the police. They're like, I love the police. They're so good. Now, do I think that it's flawed to not look at the flaws of the police? Of course. But this is it. What's the other photo? Oh, there's uncles with a MAGA hat on. Where is it? We have to cancel them. Where's the MAGA hat one? We can't like the post. Where's the MAGA hat? Hold on. Sydney? Hold on. How do you spell her name? MAGA hats. This is going to get so bad. Here we go, guys. Oh, my Lord. Her family's wearing MAGA hats? Oh, common white family W. Who cares? Listen, I don't like Donald Trump, but who cares? Like, not for nothing. I know you're all going to have a little meltdown, but not everybody supported Trump because they thought he was racist. A lot of people were just like, you want to know why people voted for Trump in 2016? Whether you want to hear this or not, because he represented anti-establishment, even though he's a corrupt dickhead. And specifically, when voters asked Hillary, what are you going to do about all the jobs, like coal jobs disappearing? She's like, fuck you, climate change, you're going to lose your job. And I get it, we have to change, but like that upset a lot of people, especially like a lot of like more conservative people whose lives depend on coal jobs. And Trump's like, I'm going to bring them back. That's why people supported him, because he said, I'm going to do something about the jobs disappearing. And he did. And and if we want to get into it, I think that the tax cuts, the trickle-down economics was bad overall. It increased the annual federal deficit, right? But for a while, he stimulated the economy and it made people happy. Even if I think he was wrong, it doesn't really matter whether it was good or bad when you look at it intelligently. What matters is what people think of it. And people weren't like, I cannot wait for this white racist to get into office. They're like, yeah, this guy said he's going to bring some jobs back, and I'm desperate because I want to feed my family. That's it. So I don't really, you guys have to cope. Outside of that, who cares? Who cares if her family's wearing blue line shirts and MAGA hat? Who cares? Get over yourself. Even if her family did the January 6th riots, she's not her family. Like, do you guys? Oh, I'm gonna get back to that. If you guys ever have family that you don't agree with, it's a meme now to be like, oh my god, guys. It's an actual meme to talk about how big of arguments you're gonna get into the dinner table, but you guys don't extend that charity to her. Who cares? She's not them. Stupid. You guys are pathetic. You guys are watching a show, Euphoria, that has some of the most flawed characters in the history, and you're identifying with them. You're like, oh my god, this is me. But then you see a real potentially flawed person. I wouldn't even call her flawed. But you go, oh, it's the wrong type of flawed. It's okay if you do drugs as a kid and shoot people, but if you wear a MAGA hat, that's where I draw the line. Come on. It's called family. All right. Anyway, that's the cancellation for Sydney Sweeney. So got her off the list. Let's next go into the non-binary girl. We're gonna put the fat girl for last because you put them at the back of the ride at Disney, so it doesn't flip forward. That's why they would always say, "Sir, you have to sit in the back of the roller coaster." We don't want it to fall forward, but you push it faster, makes the roller coaster more fun for other people. Unfortunately, though, when you're in the back of a roller coaster, you feel most of the whipping. And I have motion sickness, so I want to throw up every time I go on roller coasters. Okay, so the trans girl. So this girl's a trans girl, and they let her on Euphoria. Why? I'm just kidding. Cool. Character's interesting. Her character's kind of a bitch. Let's be honest here. Not because she's trans, but she's a kind of an asshole. Just being honest with you. Anyway, she liked this post. Yeah, she's a flaky character. Bro, she's so rude to the Zendaya character. Zendaya's in love with her, and she's just like, I'm getting my nut off. I don't like her. Rude. I like the character was well done. I just don't like the character. That's how you know the show's good. Anyway, here's the post that she liked. I hope all of the people, NBs, non-binary people, who fought to have trans identities no longer considered a medical condition that requires dysphoria are happy because you've won. The red states are beginning to agree with you. HRT and gender-affirming surgery are no longer deemed medically necessary for adults in Florida. Wow. And it's not going to stop there. Interesting. So what they're saying here is that non-binary people have convinced people that you don't need a medical diagnosis for gender-affirming surgery. And that means that it no longer requires a medical diagnosis. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to just operate based off of what's believed here because I'm assuming that she believes it, whether it's true or not. I don't know if it's true. So what they're saying is that non-binary people have convinced people that you don't need a diagnosis to get surgery, so that means that surgery is no longer being covered as a medical necessity for trans people. I don't know if that's true, But if it is true, I can see why people would be upset about that. That means more trans people will have to pay for their transitions out of pocket, forcing more of us into sex work. That's a little bit drastic. Longer need for HRT in Florida. I feel like it's not true. It bans Medicaid from covering gender affirming surgery. Okay, I don't know if I agree with the line of logic in here. I think more than anything else, like Florida's a conservative state that doesn't like trans people, and they're going to fight as much as they can. So it's ignorant, but I understand if she believes the logic, even if I would say it's misinformation. Then okay, let's keep going. You couldn't just stand to let non-binary trans people. Sorry, got a little bit heartburn. So I'm taquitos. Y'all just couldn't stand to let non-binary or let binary trans people, binary trans people be the voice of the community. You had to dismantle all of the guidelines around being trans to fit your narrative so you could feel valid, and then you demonized trans people who challenged your ideas and called them true scum or trans medicalist. What you don't understand is that that binary trans people, women, so like men and women, trans men and women, and men don't have the luxury of playing around with what it means to be trans the same way you do. You challenge gender ideologies from the safety of a cis body that requires no medical treatment. We have to play the game and live by the guidelines that cis people have created for us because that is how we survive. You're not helping. You're not dismantling the gender binary. You're not expanding the minds of cis people. You are making them hate us. For the last time, I am begging non-binary people to take a seat and let binary trans people, and more specifically black trans women, be the voice of the community because they're not the ones at risk. There's almost nothing problematic about this, and I'm honestly very tired of this conversation when we talk about trans people, and we're pretending that people who identify as non-binary are somehow like they're not different in some people's eyes than people with gender dysphoria. You can be non-binary with gender dysphoria, but generally speaking, when it comes to trans people, okay, and like listen. I don't know the beginning part of it, where it's like it's non-binary people's fault for convincing people, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I would say that, like, generally speaking, like a conservative state's just going to hate trans people regardless. And now that's becoming more popular because you have people identifying as non-binary and attaching themselves to, like, actual people with gender dysphoria. That could be having a negative impact. But fundamentally, this statement I don't really think is that problematic. And I think it's time that we start listening to trans people that are actually trans, not trying to be a dickhead. But here's the thing. You have a trans blanket, and you can separate it into two things. And like, if you're upset by this, you should really listen before you unfollow me, because, like, whatever. You have people with gender dysphoria, and you have people who identify, we're going to say it as non-binary. Now, like, just to be clear, you can be non-binary and have gender dysphoria. But we're going to simplify this into people who basically have a diagnosis because they have so much distress associated with their gender and their sex not matching. That they want to kill themselves, right? That's where it becomes like a diagnosis, right? When you want to kill yourself, that's when things start to get very serious. Most non-binary people who identify, they like to explore outside of their own gender when it comes to pronouns. But for a lot of people, it doesn't really mean anything. Because when you ask, like, what does it mean? But what does it really mean? A lot of people are like, yeah, you know what? I feel like I want to use they, them. I don't feel like a woman. Okay, that's fair. What diagnosis do you require? Well, I don't require any. And that's great. I'm not saying that you're not valid. What I'm saying is that these two things are not the same in any capacity. As a non-binary person, generally speaking, you are not struggling the same as somebody with actual gender dysphoria. And the argument here from a lot of trans people is like, hey, it sucks that I will kill myself without medical treatment, and so will other people like me. But then there are non-binary people who want to be called trans when they do not have anywhere near the same issues as I do. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. You don't like the idea of attaching wanting to kill yourself to being trans is okay? What do you mean? It's a diagnosis. It's somebody who was like basically born in the wrong body. They have so much distress associated with their gender not matching their sex that they want to hurt themselves. Like that they're that's how it works. That's how these things work. No, you do not want to kill yourself. Who are you? What are you talking about? Maybe I was being exaggeratory, but I'm talking about people that have gender dysphoria, have so much distress, constant feelings of distress and discomfort associated with just waking up in the morning, that a lot of them want to take their own lives. And that's why suicidality is much higher in trans people than cis people. You're a former trans person who was diagnosed with dysphoria. I'm not trying to be rude. If you were a former trans person diagnosed with dysphoria, maybe you have a bias in the opposite direction because you feel, I'm not trying to be rude, but you said you're a former trans person. So like you were misdiagnosed, it sounds like. So why do you, like, I'm not trying to be a dickhead to you at all. Because I get like you, it sounds like you're a detransitioner and I get that. But like also you're not a trans person though, right? So like maybe, I'm just saying. Right, like you it seems like you got misdiagnosed, and like you have your own separate struggle, and I respect that. But you understand what I'm saying? Having gender dysphoria, being correctly diagnosed with gender dysphoria, is because you have an immense feeling of distress associated with your gender and your sex. Right, non-binary people are a little uncomfortable, right, and it makes them feel better when maybe they dress a little differently, or they don't use traditional pronouns. That's fine. But these aren't the same issue in any capacity. These are not the same thing. And there's a lot of trans people who are fighting for gender-affirming care that requires a medical diagnosis because it should. Because it's very intense, who feel like they're being pushed out of the space by non-binary people, a lot of which are a lot of people who are either... Some of them are valid, but some of them are experimenting with their gender because they're just feeling it out, which is fine. And a lot of them are misdiagnosing themselves for some other issue. So these are not the same. You could be like, Papa Gut, I think non-binary people struggle more than you think. You might be right, but guess what? They don't struggle as much as people with an actual diagnosis of gender dysphoria. That's just the truth. And if you're upset, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, bro. And that's what this frustration comes from. So you want to go, oh, they don't like non-binary people? I guarantee you that half the non-binary people canceling this fucking trans girl are just some young, dumb fucking kid that watches Euphoria and thinks that being non-binary is quirky. Now, I'm not saying that's all non-binary people, but there's a lot of them. That's why you have massively high identification rates for like LGBTQ in like California, but you have them lower in other states. Part of it's because people feel more comfortable coming forward, but part of it's just because people are experimenting, or they're just doing it for fucking to be trans trenders. You know? I personally just think it's not good to attach that thought on the trans people, especially trans youth, that makes trans youth think that they should kill themselves if they can't medically treat it. That's fair. That's a good point. Okay. I understand what you're saying. I was being a little exaggeratory, but like fundamentally, I'm just saying that like there's a lot of distress that like puts a lot of like mental health stress onto trans people who don't have the access to gender affirming care. I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Actually, I'll try to be a little bit like less, a little more sensitive next time. So this one, you could disagree with her, but shut up. This is stupid shit to cancel people for. It's a very important message. Oh, from a trans woman who has gender dysphoria very clearly. Right? And you know what else she probably has? She probably also has gender euphoria. That's actually a real thing. Anyway. Okay, lastly, the fat girl. All right, so here's the fat girl. I think she's basically a prostitute in this show. Anyway, everyone on Twitter is saying that Barbie Ferrari is racist. I've searched, but nothing comes up. Can someone tell me if it's true or not? I'm experiencing the same thing. So apparently, there's not a lot here. We need to know the specifics, okay? But Barbie Ferrari, apparently she used to have a Tumblr, and she used to say the N-word. Now, I'm not sure if it was the hard R or the A, and I'm not sure what her age is. But she would be like, well, I'm black. Here's the thing. There's a lot of things here. First of all, if she's like a young kid, stop calling her that. Her name is Barbie Ferrari. What is her name? Barbie Ferreira. Ferreira.
Barbie Ferreira.
Ferreira. Is that better? Guys.
Barbie Ferreira
is racist.
Barbie Ferreira Barbie Ferreira.
Is that better? Is that better?
Barbie Ferreira.
I'll just start saying the fat girl from Euphoria. I was calling her Barbie for... Okay, I'm sorry. I keep going to the fat girl. Sorry. Okay. There's a joke. I'm being a little too sussy today. She's not even really fat. Isn't that the kind of the weird thing? She's like a little bit overweight, but by today's standards in America, she's not even fat. Anyway, Barbie Ferreira. There's a lot of different things here. First of all, if she's like 25 now, so I don't even know. When did Tumblr... Let's see. This is the real question. When did Tumblr fall? When did Tumblr stop allowing porn? 2018. Okay. So that's 5 years ago. So she might have been 20. But it was before she was 20. Because Tumblr died the second they got rid of porn. Let's be honest here. Okay? So we have to know what age she is. Frankly, I'm not black, so I'm not offended by it. If she's throwing hard R's out, I mean, I struggle to give her really too much of an excuse. But, hey, listen. If she's throwing out the A, I think it's dumb and ignorant for sure. Do I think that she's white? Absolutely. And as a white person... when you're younger, you don't understand that it's more than just a word. I'm not trying to be rude. It like a lot of times you're just like, hey, you know, you want to be cool. You're listening to rap music because it's the cool thing to do. That's when I was younger, I would listen to rap music on the stoop of my house, and you know it's going ba 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 ba. You know, it's throwing off the words, and I'm just like, yeah, you're repeating it because it's cool. Listen, this is the thing is like when you're young, like black culture is cool to you. You're like, yeah, this is cool, and then you know, like that's. You don't do it because you're a piece of shit. You do it because you think it's cool, and then your mom comes outside and she takes your CD and she burns it, but without the curse words. And then you know, your life changes. I'm not saying what she did was okay. I don't know the specifics. I don't know how often she used it. People online are exaggeratory. She could have said it once, and people could have found it and turned it into a thing. Maybe she did often use it. Maybe she wished she was black because it was cool to be black, I guess, back in the day. And that's what happened. But I don't know the specifics. So I really don't care about this one unless there's more information. So yeah. That's why we're canceling the Motley Crew here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down to the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.